They're really Voldemort. Or
apparently.
Voldemort.
So and a lot of this stuff is in character, so that's why
Ah, okay.
I didn't quite. But she raised up a couple things that was like, hold on, like I know where the gimmick stops, and then like whatever. She was asked if women at that other place motivate her to raise the bar even more. Becky said the AEW women's division isn't represented in the way that women in WWE are, and frankly, they don't get as much time as women in WWE. Frankly, the AEW women's division isn't as good as WWE's. And then she said, I wish I could say yes, but unfortunately, I don't think they're represented. Blah, blah, blah. She said, we on Raw certainly have the best women's division in the world. In the world. And I say that without any hesitation in my voice. We have the best women's division in the world. And yeah, competition is great. It's great for there to be another place. And I have a very good friend, Ruby Soho, over there. And I would love to see her as the champion one day. I would love to see her getting the spotlight she deserves. Competition is always great, but over here we're just on another level right now, man. We're on another level. These quotes are just hilarious in some aspects. As Becky says these things, there was just a SmackDown that featured no women's matches. There was just a Raw that had one women's match. There was just a WrestleMania that had one night that had one women's match on it. There was a Queen's Crown tournament that just got completely smoked.
Was it like eight matches in 17 minutes or something like that, or less than 20 minutes for sure?
Yes, the Queen's Crown has got smoked several times, but there's going to be two tournaments that smoke by the time the dust settles from all these quotes. There's going to have been two women's tournaments in AEW that have smoked the last women's tournament that they've done in WWE in match quality and time. Becky did a lot of the best division in the world stuff, and I'm like, all right, whatever, cool. But the thing, like, these things take a life of their own, like, in as far as like I don't really care about her saying that best division in the world stuff. Like, that's like, that's kind of what you say. There are Impact wrestlers crying on the internet right now and saying Dave Meltzer is not, or the country of Japan is not going to have sex with Dave Meltzer, and Impact wrestlers are sending this stuff out right now. So
Who said this?
Rosemary, whoever this person is. But yeah, it was a whole Japan, because this whole thing went on, and then
What did Meltzer say?
there was a person that said, hey, everyone can argue about WWE and AEW. Impact's, where it's at. Da, 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 da. Dave dunks on someone, says Stardom is the best women's wrestling in the world. And then a Impact wrestler quotes Dave and says, Japan is not going to fuck you, Dave. And it's like, one, he didn't say Japan. He said Stardom. Two, stop being so insecure. Three, the Impact wrestlers have a history of doing this with Dave and being upset that he doesn't really, fuck with the promotion. But as far as what Becky was saying, like I said, don't really care about the best promotion in the world stuff. The thing is, we're talking about they don't get time as much time as WWE, and they are not as represented as the way we are. I'm like, is that really true?
I think that they have, maybe not now, but let's say before, was it 2008? Was it November 4th, 2008, or when they end up on SmackDown? SmackDown went to Fox, right?
2019, I believe it was.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Yeah, because it was all the same. Yeah. So yeah, because it was all the same weekend as Dynamite showing on. Yeah. So basically, from that point forward, it seems like, from what I can glean from looking at numbers and stuff, it seems like there's been less of investment in women's wrestling than there had been from like up to that point, from like 2015ish to then. But they still have I don't want to say benefit of the doubt, but they still have the stars that were built up from that time. So that's the Horsewoman, that's Asuka, that is Ronda Rousey. Now that she's back, and basically since then, the only other person that really has been brought up to that kind of level has been Bianca. Um, they try and fail with Lacey Evans. They're trying again, and by all accounts, people that I see on my timeline to talk about it, like they can't stand it, and it's almost like if she had this great story, maybe you should have brought her out as this shitty heel for multiple years, and then have her come back and try to get your sympathy. Then, like they did this shit in reverse. And people talked about like people backstage believed in her because of the story. It's like, well, why the fuck you bringing her out as a heel off rip? That's dumb. But whatever, they had their own prerogative. So, but yeah, they're still living off of basically the works of the Horsewoman Asuka, and from prior years, it's still in Ronda, and now that they have less time or stuff whatever else, it's not like their storylines are so sophisticated or adult or layered or whatever else. But they do have the benefit of history, like that when you see, you see Sasha and you see Becky and they have a feud in like 2019 or whatever else, you kind of, they've already done that work. Like this is a chapter of what they've already done, as opposed to AEW, where it's like everything is still so new.
Everything's
like
building, like
everything's still building, and the things you're building isn't nearly as invested as the time that WWE did put into at the time back then. So like that's the thing when me and you talk about, and I've said ad nauseum about, like either you're going to do it or you don't, or you're not. And like if you don't, if you're going to rely on getting to the 5 years from now and seeing Rosa versus Britt, then to say like, look at this story that they've told over 5 years, I don't think you've really gotten them in the door to where like people filled them in that way, outside of the part where like they've had they tried to have 2 crazy matches and one of them was great. And they're still working on that thing. Like they still only have 2 or 3 stars. Still only have 3 bankable stars, if you will. And 2 other ones that I would say are stars. Is that enough for a division? Yes. I just think that they don't have the time to. They haven't put in the time, and it's going to take time, but it's also going to take more time out of these shows to get there. And if they don't, we'll look back and be like, well, we saw this shit from like almost day one that they weren't putting in this time. They were throwing them in, at like that 9:20 slot or whatever. So, I in a way, in a roundabout way, I'm basically saying like I don't know how much better WWE's women's division is than, or any WWE women's division is better than AEW's women's division. I just know that like at least WWE has the rep of the last 6 years to still live off of.
Mm-hmm. Like they had an entire like developmental territory, like testing that whole thing that they eventually put on their main show after years and kicking and screaming. So like for me the rush to essentially make AEW have to compete on that level with them as well
from day one
it feels a little
it's disingenuous.
I don't know, like I can't, especially when there's no Chris Jericho, there's no Kenny Omega, there's like these are all new, like they're new people. Like Jade is a new person to wrestling, for example.
Britt's never matches. Had a 31 matches or whatever.
Britt had never really had a shot on a national stage like this. Thunder Rosa, similar. Like a lot of their stars like are working with, and to Becky's point, limited time. And it's like this AEW is way more competitive than WWE. I feel like WWE has more programming hours throughout the week. They have like different ways they have a much larger like social media following that they can blast stuff to, and
there's less time on matches,
right? There's like less time, so it's weird that it's something that is valid, but at the same time, it's like, all right, if it has to roll out at the box at day one, where does it grow to from one? Also, like, do we ignore everything else that like AEW is already competing with out the box day one? Like, there are just some tools that are going to be sharper than others. Like we talked about Ben Simmons, right? like earlier in the show, and it's like he has a difficulty shooting the jumpers, but no one talks about how bad his defense is. No one talk or how good his defense is. He can rebound, he can distribute. These are all strengths of his, and AEW strengths are, I think, in a different area. But I feel like they've like much in the similar to the representation thing, which people have like tied these things together as well. It's like, I think they have worked with what they had at a given particular time, and when it's like, okay, it's time to, hey, you have the tools that we feel like we can expect something. I feel like they've delivered in every time, essentially, where it's like, all right, you have no stars. Oh, okay, there's a couple of stars been created. Make people care about them. People fucking care when Thunder Rosa won the belt. So, it's a process. So, like, I don't think Becky's totally out of line, but she's also like taking, like, she's doing the thing. So, got some good discussion out of it, I think, for the people that actually wanted to approach this in good faith. But then, of course, there was the noise, the bullshit that was out there. So.
Yeah. So JML put in Meltzer's tweet in here, and I clicked on the link, and look, I'm just gonna look in the chat. I see Dylan in here. I see JML in here. Besides just us two that watch Joshi, that watch Stardom, and me that dabbles in Joshi, like outside of Stardom or whatever else. If you were to ask me what the best women's division in the world is, if you say like there's a difference between a promotion and division, I would still take like AEW's, or sorry, I still would take like Stardom's like High Speed or Tag or Trios division before I take like what's happening right now. Like basically since NXT Black and Gold, like their women's division went to shit. Like, so yeah,
Look, man, I almost got on Twitter
fine.
and responded to the Impact wrestler that Unagi Sayaka was packing up their entire company. Like, but I didn't, right? But I almost did.
That match with Kamatani would probably be their best match of the year, right?
Look, they never talk about the matches.
Oh no, yeah. Like it's funny because it's like, I'm looking at some of those comments underneath Meltzer thing, and they were like,
"It's a general fear of the unknown, a fear of Japan, insecurity."
Japan talking about, well, what about the stories and promos? I was like, I can send you a video of someone that did a fucking 30-minute essay on Starlight Kid versus Izumi. That was a semi-main event for a C pay-per-view. Like a 30-minute essay. You got one of those. You got one of those for Rhea and Liv. I don't think you do.
Hey,
I know.
Hey, man, that Liv Morgan will never win clip. It ages great, by the way.
It does.
But yeah, man.
Dylan says Yuka Sakazaki is smoking the Impact. Yeah, absolutely. Well, JML says, give me the Stardom Hot division. We gotta get this shit off the ground. We gotta come up with a name for it. We gotta come up with a name for it. We gotta get a belt for it. We gotta do all that.
Look, even if we have to like have the belt ourselves, like as a lineal championship,
bro. Just this weekend, there was a trios match between God's Eye and Stars, and they started it with Ida and Mirai, and they just picked up where they left off from Sumo Hall. It was great, but for like the first like 3, 4, 5 minutes of the match. But yeah, I just I don't. Well, yeah, like Dylan says Tokyo Joshi Pro's top 5 Impact's whole women's division. Yeah, that's
I think that goes without saying.
Yeah, I mean, shit. Like, you can take out Miyu and Yuka, and I still take like basically from like Mizuki to like Hikaru Noah over them.
Yeah. Crowler says, "Where would
I'll
me?"
go. Actually, no. I'll go even lower. I'll throw in Miyu Watanabe too. Throw her in there.
And I think what Becky may be talking about with that Raw women's roster, and then you can add the SmackDown one in there. It's like, man, after you get past them first 2-3 names on each side, it gets rough,
Yeah,
man. Like,
yeah,
and people don't be
you,
ready to talk about that.
yeah. You know, you look her up and you're like, okay, so how many people are you going before you end up getting to Zelina or uh Dana
Carmella,
Brooke, Carmella, yeah, Alexa Bliss.
they right there, can't miss them.
It ain't that far. It ain't that deep. It ain't nearly that deep.
So, like, luckily they got Oscar back. She's gonna be apparently working with Becky, which just leaves me to wonder what Bianca's gonna be doing. That's compelling. And you know these questions are
Yeah,
these are questions that suddenly don't have answers at certain points.
yeah. I just I haven't seen any of the Oscar return stuff. I heard people were very happy that she's back. She's one of the very few people that could like actually get me to watch any of their stuff. So or at least like check it out on YouTube to see what's going on with them. Like that's not in a oh my god something disastrous happened. You have to now like see the car wreck. But yeah, I'll go see what's going on this week with her and Becky or whatever else because they all they do is have good matches when they end up having end up on pay per view. So, um, but yeah, it's just weird. It's just really weird. Like the daily rhetoric or the weekly rhetoric of any topic that pops up and how it's like immediately turns into a. And obviously, this was a question she's answering honestly, but like then it turns into like the bad faith stuff, and it's like why is everybody like this and then it's like
Because
oh
I feel
well
like if people like talk to each other, like, and I don't really advocate for the spaces or stuff like that, but like if people were in person talking with each other,
they
I
would not
don't
be talking to each other like this.
it wouldn't do
They're
that.
all trying to dunk on each other in like in 100 or sorry 240 characters or 280 characters whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's like I think there's a way to talk about just about any of these stories that come up, right? But it is it's a thing, and the wrestling war has brought a lot of insecurity out of people, a lot of just like just being nasty to each other. I feel like there's a way
yeah,
you can do it, and it's like, all right, and it's I really question some of the stuff people tweet. Like what makes them start with that? What makes you go with that line? So I enjoy doing that, but because I'll drop that Prince on you quick now, like that. What you putting in your nose?
and don't get me wrong, like we all partake in that shit too, right? Like I forgot who it was. Mark Madden said some shit about Eric Bischoff and how Eric Bischoff was always trying to get the casual
Oh
fan, whatever else. And then
yeah,
our response was
yeah.
like,
Bring that to
"Well,
the
what the
light.
what the fuck was 90? What the fuck was Starrcade 95? And what the fuck was?" And people he said something like dream matches aren't what it is like. Then why did like they immediately go to Flair Hogan when Hogan showed up in WCW? And then his response wasn't like, oh my bad, I forgot or whatever it was. Well, that shit didn't work. Call me when AEW does something like the NWO, and I was like, oh, you're one of them. Okay, I got you. You're a bullshitter. Got you. Okay, so he did do all this shit, and like your tweet is just like wildly dishonest. Okay, got you. And like he has thousands and thousands of viewers, and I like or followers, and I got more
Yes,
likes than him. So I won the ratio, I guess. Whatever,
yes,
but it's like
James. It sounds like so.
yeah.